The Forbidden Book and Hidden Knowledge. In a forgotten vault beneath the sands of Anatolia, guarded by silence and time, lies a manuscript whose very existence has been denied by the architects of history. This is the CEX Animae, a forbidden tome written over 12 centuries ago by a clandestine order of mystics devoted to preserving the soul's sacred truth. Its pages are laced with cryptic symbols, veiled allegories, and references to ancient rites that predate even the earliest religious doctrines. It dares to map the journey of the soul, not only through life and death, but before birth itself. Why, one must wonder, would such a book be banished to oblivion? Because it carries the power to unbind the chains that have shackled human consciousness for millennia. Within it pulses the rhythm of Sabadoria ancestral, whispering of a forgotten illumination that once linked humankind to the stars. The knowledge concealed within these pages was not merely historical, it was spiritual dynamite. The CEX Animae reveals that the soul is not a passive passenger, but an eternal navigator through layers of reality far more complex than what the senses can grasp. It speaks of thresholds between worlds, of chambers of memory and intention where the soul is sculpted by light and shadow. According to this arcane doctrine, each incarnation is not a punishment or accident, but a carefully orchestrated act of alchemia interior. It is here that one begins to see the hands of ancient architects attempting to silence a narrative that could liberate billions. For buried in those texts, prohibidos, lies the understanding that humanity was never meant to be controlled, but awakened. Through its passages, the manuscript describes luminous realms of preparation, where beings of energia cosmica assist the soul in preparing its next descent into matter. These entities, guardians of vibrational thresholds, appear in traditions as varied as the Egyptian Ka, the Hindu Devas, and the Gnostic Aeons. They are not gods to be worshipped, but allies to be remembered. The soul, says the manuscript, communes with these entities in sacred dialogue before choosing to return to the terrestrial plane. The echoes of these pre-birth agreements can still be heard in dreams, synchronicities, and déjà vus. Yet organized, religion, threatened by the autonomy such revelations offer, worked diligently to bury these truths beneath layers of doctrine, fear, and forgetfulness. The suppression of the CEX Animae was no mere act of censorship. It was an orchestrated rite of disempowerment. To remove from humanity the awareness of its own cosmic design was to replace divinity with dependency. The ancient mystics who safeguarded the manuscript warned that forgetting this knowledge would lead to an age of spiritual amnesia, where the soul would wander lost in a labyrinth of illusion. And so it was. Across centuries, rituals were desecrated, temples destroyed, and texts burned in the name of conformity. But truth, like light through a keyhole, has always found a way to seep through. In the most unlikely places, fragments of this forbidden knowledge endured, hidden in symbols, encoded in myths, and whispered by those who remembered. And now, as the collective soul of humanity begins to stir from its slumber, the resonance of the CEX Animae grows louder. Its emergence in modern times is not a coincidence, but a cosmic signal. The time has come to reclaim the roadmap of the soul. With each revelation, we peel back layers of conditioning and begin to see that we were never meant to grope in darkness, but to awaken to the brilliance of our spiritual lineage. The journey mapped within the book is not merely one of the afterlife, but of the before life, a revelation so profound that it redefines existence itself. But the first secret, the first awakening, lies in this realization. You chose to come here. You chose this life. What if everything you've endured, from the tender joys to the agonizing sorrows, was not accidental, but meticulously chosen by your soul? This is the unsettling and liberating truth whispered through the pages of the CEX. And Nimai, according to its sacred verses, your soul stood before a cosmic mirror, fully aware, fully luminous, and made a choice to descend into the theater of flesh, time, and imperfection. Every element of your existence, your family, your body, even the struggles you've cursed, was selected with the precision of a master alchemist preparing for transmutation. This is not mere fate, but alchemia interior in motion. It is the soul's dance with duality, meant to distill Sabadoria ancestral from the crude elements of earthly experience. In the pre-birth sanctums revealed by this manuscript, the soul contemplates paths not with fear, but with clarity and purpose. Imagine standing before a celestial council, witnessing multiple lifelines unravel like golden threads in an ocean of potential. You see suffering not as punishment but as sacred fire, forging your future illumination as spiritual. That heartbreak, chosen. That loss, accepted. That limitation, embraced. For the soul knows what the mind forgets, that within each shadow lies the seed of awakening. Misterios occultos wrap every human trial, not as shackles but as invitations. The soul, in its cosmic audacity, volunteered for this, knowing that the forgetting would be total, and yet still saying yes. The implications are staggering. If you chose this life, then victimhood dissolves into insight, and chaos becomes a language of the soul. The veils of illusion, woven from societal lies, inherited trauma, and personal doubt, begin to tear, revealing the brilliance underneath. The CEX Animi doesn't promise comfort, it promises truth. And truth is often sharp before it becomes liberating. To realize that your soul is the architect behind your incarnation is to step into sacred responsibility. It means that every obstacle you face is not a wall, but a door. And behind that door, a lesson carved in Energia Cosmica, waiting to be remembered. This truth echoes in forgotten traditions across the globe. The Toltecs taught that life is a dream we choose to enter. The ancient Vedics spoke of the Lila, the divine play. The Gnostics warned that we are sparks of divine intelligence trapped in matter, not by accident, but by decision. These are not fairy tales, but encrypted transmissions of Sabadoria ancestral, lost to the masses, but preserved in symbols, chants, and rituals. When aligned, they all point back to a singular revelation. Your life is not happening to you. It's happening through you. You are both the actor and the playwright, the flame and the wick. But if this is true, if your soul truly made these choices, then what were you preparing for? What stages did your essence traverse before being veiled in skin and breath? The CEX Animi speaks not just of intent, but of preparation. 7 sacred thresholds the soul must cross before taking the leap into incarnation. Each one a chamber of transformation, each one layered with mysterios occultos and celestial designs. And so, to truly understand your life now, you must go further back, not to your childhood, not even to the womb, but to before time knew your name. The 7 stages of the soul before birth, before the first breath, before the heartbeat, before even the flicker of a zygote in the womb. Your soul walked through 7 sacred thresholds, each more mysterious than the last. These are not metaphorical stages, but energetic initiations, etched into the very fabric of the CEX Animi. The manuscript unveils them not as linear steps, but as spirals of transformation through which the soul is refined, expanded, and prepared. Every stage echoes with mysterios occultos, layered with celestial purpose and cosmic resonance. These stages are not merely spiritual lore. They are the architecture of existence, the blueprint of your unfolding human drama. Each one infuses the soul with fragments of Sabadoria ancestral, ensuring that your earthly experience is charged with meaning far beyond what logic can contain. The mystics who once guarded this knowledge believed that without understanding these stages, one lives blindly, like a candle without a flame. Stage by stage, the soul absorbs vibrational codes: compassion, courage, remembrance, humility, vision, surrender, and finally, the leap. Each is a gateway and a mirror, a divine test that whispers, "Are you ready to forget and yet remain whole?" The soul does not merely prepare for embodiment, it prepares to be torn from the memory of its divine origin. This is not a punishment, but an act of alchimia interior, a sacred amnesia that enables the soul to rediscover itself in the friction of the physical. Thus, these 7 stages form not only a map, but a mythic initiation into humanhood itself. Esoteric texts hidden across cultures mirror this same secret. The Book of the Dead in ancient Egypt, the Tibetan Bardo Thodol, the Corpus Hermeticum, each hints at a journey undertaken between incarnations. Fragmented and coded, they speak of luminous gates, trials of the spirit, and counsels of light that sculpt the soul's essence into form. The CEX Animae weaves these fragments together, revealing that the process is not random, but orchestrated with the precision of celestial artisans. Within each stage, your soul is infused with frequencies, drawn from Energia Cosmica itself, frequencies that shape your voice, your vision, your wounds, and your gifts. To awaken is to remember this journey, not as something learned, but something long buried within. This hidden journey is not without cost, for to cross each stage, the soul must surrender more of its boundless awareness. It must agree to limitation, to pain, to uncertainty. It must trade omniscience for wonder, eternity for time. But why? Because the soul seeks illumination is spiritual, not through knowledge, but through experience. These 7 stages encode this paradox, that to remember who you are, you must first forget. In this cosmic forgetting lies the potential for evolution, for every act of rediscovery becomes a sacred act of transformation. The sages say that each soul carries the faint memory of these stages like a watermark in the psyche, surfacing in dreams, in synchronicities, in the trembling silence between thoughts. But what are these 7 stages truly? What happens in each? What guides the soul? What questions must be answered? What choices must be made? The CEX Animae begins its revelation with the first threshold, the call of universal consciousness, a beckoning not of force but of love, a signal sent not to summon but to invite. It is the voice that echoes through all realms, asking only one thing: will you return to the mystery of flesh once more? Stage 1. The call of universal consciousness. Before the cosmos was clothed in stars and silence, there was a pulse, subtle, eternal, and unmistakably alive. The CEX Animae calls this pulse the call of universal consciousness. It is not a sound, but a frequency, not a command, but a summons. It moves through the dimensions like a sacred wind, brushing against the soul in its resting state between incarnations. This call is gentle, yet infinitely powerful, an invitation woven from Energia Cosmica itself. The soul, suspended in the luminous cradle of pre-existence, recognizes the resonance not with its ears, but with its essence. It is the same voice heard by prophets in trances, mystics in meditation, and children who stare too long at the stars. A whisper from the source asking, "Are you ready to return?" The soul does not obey this call out of obligation. No chains bind it to existence. It responds because it desires to grow, to feel, to remember through forgetting. The CEX Animae reveals that this choice marks the first act of sacred courage, the decision to re-enter density. Here begins the alchimia interior, where the limitless soul agrees to condense into a fragile form. The soul understands that within flesh it will encounter joy and pain, confusion and revelation, but above all, the possibility of transformation. This is not merely a return to life, it is a return to the mystery. The soul, touched by Sabadoria ancestral, knows that the experience of embodiment holds secrets that even the stars envy. Ancient myths echo this first stage in symbolic form. In Sumerian texts, Inanna descends willingly into the underworld. In Hermetic philosophy, the divine spark descends into matter, seeking to reunite with the All. In the Kabbalistic tree of life, the soul journeys from Kether to Malkut, from unity to fragmentation. All these tales point to the same hidden truth. Preserved in textos prohibidos, the descent is sacred and the call is eternal. But only the bravest souls answer it, for they know the price: silence, separation, and the slow amnesia of incarnation. And yet the call is never coercive. It is a mirror held up to the soul, reflecting its own yearning for evolution. This stage reveals a paradox only the mystics dare contemplate. The soul chooses to suffer not out of masochism, but out of infinite love, for growth, for others, for the unfolding of consciousness itself. The decision to incarnate is a cosmic act of devotion, a reaffirmation of unity through the lens of duality. The soul does not fear the dark, for it knows it carries light within. It does not fear pain, for it has known eternity. The call of universal consciousness is thus not a beginning, but a re-beginning, a spiraling return to Earth's theatre, where mysterios occultos unfold scene by scene. And though the soul trembles before the unknown, it also radiates with a purpose older than time. But this sacred calling is only the threshold. To step forward, the soul must first look back, not in regret, but in reverence. Before choosing the next life, it must gaze into the mirror of its own past, a luminous review of every action, emotion, and intention that has ever echoed through its being. This next stage is not judgment. It is reflection. It is the soul standing before the river of memory and asking, "What have I become?" Stage 2. Life Review. In the quiet between worlds, where time bends and thought becomes light, the soul enters the second sacred threshold, the life review. Far removed from human judgment, this stage is not a trial, but a mirror, one crafted from pure consciousness and infused with Sabadoria ancestral. The CEX Animae describes it as a crystalline sphere where the soul views each moment of its past lives, not as a distant observer, but as a feeling presence. It relives not just the actions, but their ripples, the pain it caused, the joy it offered, the silence it held when words were needed. Every decision, every emotion, every whisper of intention echoes in this luminous hall. This is the place where the soul learns not what it did, but what it became. The life review is intimate, immersive, and utterly revealing. Here illusions fall away, the masks worn in the theater of incarnation dissolve, and only energy remains. The CEX Animae reveals that the soul experiences each deed from all perspectives involved. To strike another is to feel the wound. To heal someone is to bask in their relief. This radical empathy is not punishment. It is illumination spiritual. Through experience, it teaches the soul that the universe is not made of matter, but of relationships, of energetic exchanges sculpted by intention. It is here, in this sacred chamber of review, that the soul recognizes its own patterns and understands the consequences not through morality, but through cosmic resonance. Across spiritual traditions, this phenomenon has surfaced again and again, encoded in texts prohibidos and whispered in near-death experiences. Tibetan Buddhism speaks of the karmic mirror, the Sufis of the Book of Deeds, and Christian mystics of the Judgment by Light. Each is a fractured echo of this ancient truth preserved in the CX Animae. The soul is not judged by an external God, but by its own luminous self, its essence stripped of ego. And in this mirror, the soul does not find damnation, but clarity. It sees where love could have been stronger, where fear took the lead, where kindness waited on the tip of a withheld word. These revelations are not chains, they are keys to deeper transformation. This is the alchemical crucible of the soul, alchimia interior through reflection. It is painful, yes, but not in a way that scars. It is pain that purifies, that calls the soul to rise, to evolve. From this review, the soul extracts the essence of its journey. It begins to see why certain lessons keep returning, why certain souls appear across lifetimes, why specific patterns haunt or heal it. This understanding is vital, for without it, the soul would carry forward blindfolded, repeating karmic loops with no insight. But with reflection comes realignment, and with realignment, the soul begins to choose more consciously what it wishes to become next. Yet the soul does not walk this path alone. As the echoes of its past fade into insight, the next chamber of pre-existence opens, one filled not with mirrors, but with beings of light. Here the soul meets with the Council of Souls, ancient allies, cosmic mentors, and guides of Energia Cosmica who assist in designing the next incarnation. But this is no divine imposition. It is a collaboration of consciousness, a sacred gathering to ask the question, what do you still need to learn, and who will walk with you? Stage 3. Council of Souls. Beyond the halls of memory, the soul enters a realm unlike any other, a place where light thinks and thought becomes form. It is here that the CX Animae introduces us to the Council of Souls, an assembly of luminous beings who dwell between dimensions, where time flows in spirals and silence holds ancient codes. These are not judges, but cosmic collaborators, entities of Energia Cosmica who have guided your soul across lifetimes. Their presence radiates compassion beyond human understanding, for they have watched you rise, fall, learn, and love across centuries. Some once walked the earth beside you, others never incarnated but hold memory of your entire soul lineage. Gathered in this circle of wisdom, they ask not what you want but who you are ready to become. The Council presents possibilities, not commandments. They show the soul visions, flickering timelines, branching paths, potential karmic encounters. Each life, each body, each challenge is not random, but sculpted with intention. In this sacred dialogue, the soul co-designs its incarnation like a master of alchemia interior, preparing for spiritual transmutation. It is here that contracts are formed, not legal, but energetic. You agree to meet a mother who will teach. You sacrifice a lover who will break your heart open, a stranger who will awaken your purpose with a single act of kindness. These are not roles cast in stone, but invitations for evolution. Even suffering in this light becomes a tool for illumination as spiritual. Traditions around the world echo this counsel in whispers. In the Hawaiian Huna wisdom, spiritual guides assist in the journey of reincarnation. The Aboriginal Dreamtime speaks of ancestral spirits who help the soul sing its way into form. In Hermetic lore, divine intelligences called nous or logoi assist in the descent into matter. These are fragmented memories of the same ancient truth. The soul does not descend alone. This collaboration is sacred, encoded in Sabadoria ancestral, and preserved in rituals, chants, and symbols scattered across civilizations. The CEX Animae reminds us that the Council is not a metaphor. It is a forgotten meeting that shaped the very life you live now. And within this ethereal chamber, decisions are made with breathtaking clarity. The soul does not choose the easy road. It chooses the one that best serves its evolution. Some choose hardship to break egoic patterns. Others choose simplicity to anchor compassion. Every difficulty in your current life may be traced back to this moment of sacred choice. The council guides without pushing, reflects without judging. They are the keepers of the Misterios Ocultos, reminding the soul that every incarnation is a portal through which divine awareness expands. They speak in symbols, in color, in vibration. They do not use words. Their message is felt, not heard. But once the visions settle and the choices are made, one last question remains. Why are you returning? For every soul must descend with purpose, or risk being lost in the labyrinth of matter. And so the next stage awaits. The soul must look within and ask, what is the mission I carry into the world of flesh and forgetting? Thus begins the fourth stage, the choosing of a life purpose, a flame hidden in the heart waiting to awaken. Stage 4, choosing a life purpose. In the luminous stillness that follows the council's guidance, the soul now turns inward into the sanctum of its own essence. It is here, in this fourth sacred stage, that the soul confronts one of the most profound Misterios Ocultos, the selection of its life purpose. This is not a goal in the human sense, but a divine frequency the soul agrees to carry through the density of form. According to the CEX Animae, the purpose is not imposed, it is remembered. Like a forgotten melody suddenly heard in silence, the soul rediscovers what it has always known, that its very presence is a catalyst for change, for healing, for awakening. To incarnate without purpose is to wander asleep in the dream. To descend with it is to become a living flame of sabiduria ancestral in a world starved of light. The choosing of a life purpose is an act of cosmic clarity. It emerges not from desire, but from deep resonance. Some souls choose to be healers, not by title, but by vibration. Others elect to embody compassion, to hold space for others in the chaos of forgetting. Some return as catalysts, igniting revolutions of consciousness. Others come to dissolve generational trauma or to guide others back to their own light. These purposes may not always be grand by worldly standards. Often, the quietest lives contain the loudest echoes across dimensions. For the soul does not measure value in fame or wealth, but in alignment with the pulse of Energia Cosmica, with the greater harmony of all beings. To aid this choice, the soul reviews symbols, archetypes, and mythic patterns that have danced with it across lifetimes. The healer's staff, the wanderer's cloak, the warrior's blade, the teacher's flame, these are not external tools, but internal truths. The CEX Animae suggests that every soul carries an energetic signature, an imprint that guides the selection of its next sacred task. The soul studies the matrix of its karmic threads and asks, what needs to be completed? What needs to be transmuted? In this moment, the soul sees its future tears, its forgotten joy, its moments of doubt, and accepts them all, for they are the soil in which its purpose will take root. But purpose is not rigid. It breathes. It adapts to the choices the human self will make, to the unforeseen paths it may wander. The CEX Animae explains that purpose is not one singular act, but a vibration the soul weaves through all it touches. It may manifest through art, or parenting, or silence, through rebellion, or through service. The soul is given clues, like breadcrumbs in the forest of incarnation, symbols, dreams, passions, and synchronicities that will later guide the human self back to its deeper mission. This is why even the darkest nights of the soul are sacred. They often contain the very fire that reveals the path. Purpose hides in paradox, in sorrow, in stillness. And once this sacred vow is taken, once the soul has whispered yes to its inner fire, another choice arises, even more intimate. In what body will I carry this light? In what family, what land, what lineage will I root this mission? Thus, the journey continues into the fifth stage of pre-incarnation, the choosing of the body and family, an act of profound strategy and sacrifice, veiled in pain, but wrapped in the promise of transformation. Stage 5, choosing the body and family. Once the soul has ignited its purpose, the next step is both profound and paradoxical, choosing the vessel through which its mission will unfold. According to the CEX Animae, this decision is not taken lightly. The body is not just flesh, it is a temple, a prism, through which the soul refracts its cosmic light into the world. Every curve, every limitation, every trait is selected with intent as part of a sacred design. The family, too, is no accident. It becomes the first mirror, the first arena, the first source of both love and challenge. This stage is an act of high alchemia interior, where the soul fuses intention with incarnation, blending purpose with environment. And often, what appears to be misfortune on earth is a carefully chosen ingredient for spiritual transformation. The CEX Animae describes this moment as standing before a great tapestry of human possibility. The soul sees countless bodies and lifelines stretching before it. Each one holds different lessons. Some bodies carry illness to teach resilience, others carry beauty to teach humility. Some families provide stability, others chaos. Each dynamic acting as a crucible in which the soul's vibration is tempered. Here lies one of the mysterios occultos few dare accept. Even suffering is chosen. Even abuse, abandonment, or poverty may serve as catalysts for awakening. This is not justification, it is revelation. The soul sees how darkness can become the soil from which light blossoms, and with cosmic bravery, it chooses. Ancient traditions spoke of this selection with reverence. In African spirituality, ancestors are believed to guide the soul to its earthly tribe. In Eastern philosophies, karma determines the soul's next lineage. Hermeticism teaches that the microcosm of the family reflects the macrocosm of the soul's evolution. Each perspective, though varied, affirms the same truth preserved in Textos Prohibidos. You are not where you are by mistake. Even your DNA carries echoes of Sabedoria ancestral, genetic memories that stir within you, awakening the wisdom of those who came before. You may find yourself battling the very wounds your ancestors left unresolved, not as punishment, but as healer, as liberator, as chosen one. This stage also reveals that no relationship is accidental. Parents, siblings, even rivals may be souls you've traveled with across lifetimes. Together, you made sacred agreements, some to love, some to challenge, some to break you open so your light could pour through the cracks. This is the soul's quiet genius, designing its own obstacles, encoding its own clues. What you see as dysfunction may be a spiritual puzzle meant to awaken your purpose. In this way, the human story becomes a multidimensional script written in the language of Energia Cosmica. The pain you carry may not be yours alone, but a lineage calling for release through you. And once this delicate web of choices is woven, once the soul has selected its body, its bloodline, its birthplace, it must prepare for the final forgetting. For no soul may carry all this memory into the world of matter. To truly experience life, it must forget the very choices it made. Thus begins the next and most mysterious stage, the descent through the veil of forgetfulness, where the soul's eternal light is hidden, only to be remembered again, piece by piece, through the eyes of the human heart. Stage 6. The veil of forgetfulness. As the soul completes its preparations, carrying the sacred threads of purpose, body, and ancestral line, it arrives at the penultimate threshold, the veil of forgetfulness. This veil, described in the CEX Animae, is not punishment but necessity. It is the thin, ethereal membrane that separates knowing from unknowing, eternity from incarnation. To pass through it is to agree to forget every truth the soul once held close, its origins, its cosmic alliances, its mission. This amnesia is part of the divine experiment, a sacred condition that gives weight to the human experience. For if you remembered everything, there would be no journey, no quest, no trial, no return. In forgetting, the soul creates the very terrain for rediscovery, where Sabadoria ancestral can be reborn, not through doctrine, but through living. The veil is the reason you cannot recall choosing your parents, or selecting your struggles, or dancing with the Council of Souls. It is why the world feels like exile until you remember it is a crucible. The CEX Animae teaches that this forgetting is temporary yet profound. Like a mist that thickens over time, it shrouds the soul's light in layers of doubt, distraction, and duality. And yet, the soul leaves behind clues, symbols, passions, recurring dreams, unexplainable yearnings. These are echoes from beyond the veil, breadcrumbs scattered by your higher self to guide you back to remembrance. Each synchronicity, each intuitive pull, each awakening moment is a crack in the illusion, a thread that leads you back to your true nature. Across spiritual traditions, the veil has many names. The Gnostics called it the curtain of forgetfulness, separating the pleroma from the material world. Hindu sages spoke of Maya, the illusion that blinds us to divine truth. In Mesoamerican wisdom, the soul was said to drink from the waters of forgetfulness before birth. All these metaphors point to the same phenomenon, a deliberate amnesia that makes the Earth School possible. Without it, the soul would live in omniscience, but not in transformation. And it is transformation, not comfort, that ignites illumination spiritual. To awaken despite forgetting, this is the triumph of the soul. And so the veil is both barrier and gift. It is the silence before the song, the darkness before the flame. While it hides the soul's full memory, it does not erase its essence. Your instincts, your moral compass, your inexplicable sense of destiny, they are whispers from the other side. They speak not in language, but in vibration. The CEX Animae reveals that even within the amnesia, the soul continues to communicate through dreams, symbols, and sudden awakenings. This is why some moments in life feel eerily familiar, as though you are remembering something you never learned. That is not illusion. It is the soul knocking from the inside. Now, as the soul prepares to cross the final threshold, the atmosphere changes. The stillness gives way to movement. The eternal begins to yield to time. The soul stands at the edge of incarnation, where forgetting becomes form and light becomes life. The final act is not planned. It is leapt, a sacred dive into the unknown. Thus begins the last and most courageous stage, the leap of faith, birth, where the soul surrenders to the veil and begins again. Stage 7, the leap of faith, birth. The moment arrives, not with fanfare, but with silence dense as stars. The soul stands before the final gate, where eternity bends into time and knowing becomes mystery. This is the leap of faith, the sacred plunge into human existence. The Sex Animae describes it not as a fall, but as a surrender, an act of immeasurable courage. To be born is not merely to enter a body, but to pass through the crucible of forgetting, to be wrapped in vulnerability and veiled in amnesia. It is the soul's boldest decision, to become small so that it may grow again, to be limited so that it may remember its boundlessness. In this moment, wrapped in the breath of Energia Cosmica, the soul does not flinch. It leaps. The transition is neither gentle nor cruel. It is sacred. As the soul crosses the veil, its consciousness condenses into the spiral of the embryo, anchoring light into matter. That first heartbeat, that first flicker of brain activity, is more than biology. It is a cosmic symphony tuning itself into the density of flesh. The soul is not fully inside the body yet. It hovers, weaves, touches. According to Sabedoria Ancestral, birth is not a beginning, but a continuation, a re-entry into the classroom of life. The cries of a newborn are not fear, but memory echoing, fragments of knowing fading into the dream. And yet, within the deepest layer of that infant's being, the seed of purpose pulses, hidden, waiting to awaken. In ancient rites long forgotten, birth was honored not just as a biological event, but as a mystical initiation. Indigenous traditions in the Andes, the Dogon, and the Maori believed that the moment of birth was orchestrated in concert with the stars, timed to infuse the soul with specific energies aligned to its mission. Hermetic teachings taught that the soul crosses the 7 planetary spheres before birth, absorbing virtues and shadows alike. The CEX animi gathers these scattered truths and weaves them into one. The birth process is not random, but alchemical. It is the soul stepping through the gates of the physical world, carrying the imprint of mysterios occultos within every cell. Yet no soul crosses alone. Though the veil conceals connection, every birth is guided by unseen hands, ancestral spirits and energies chosen long before. The mother, even in pain, becomes a sacred portal. The room, however clinical or humble, becomes a temple. The act of drawing breath is a cosmic event, the first tether between spirit and body. And though the memory of the soul's journey fades quickly, it leaves traces, impressions in the subconscious, dreams that feel like home, an unshakable sense that you came here for something. These are not fantasies. They are echoes of truth, encoded in your very being. They are the compass that one day leads you back to yourself. And so, with this leap, the journey begins anew. The soul, now hidden behind eyes that have just opened, begins the sacred task of remembering what it once knew. The CEX animi ends not with finality, but with invitation, to awaken, to reclaim, to illuminate. For though you have forgotten your choice, your path, and your power, none of it is lost. It waits dormant behind the veil of everyday life. And now that you have glimpsed the map, are you ready to begin remembering? What if everything you thought you knew about your existence, your body, your past, your purpose, was nothing more than a veil? What if the life you're living right now is just the visible tip of a journey that began long before your birth and will continue long after your final breath? There exists a manuscript buried in secrecy for over 200 years that dares to answer these questions. A forbidden text hidden from the eyes of the world because it contains something profoundly dangerous: the truth. This ancient book, known only to a secret lineage of mystics, describes in detail the 7 sacred stages your soul undergoes before it ever touches the earth. It reveals a map written in energy and intention, crafted not by chance, but by choice. A map censored from religious texts, erased from historical records, and locked away in vaults where only the initiated dare look. But today, that truth returns to the surface, called forth by the awakening of those ready to remember, ready to reclaim their forgotten divinity. In this video, you'll uncover the journey your soul embarked upon before birth. You'll be guided through thresholds of Sabedoria Ancestral, through halls echoing with mysterios occultos, and through the radiant frequencies of Energia Cosmica that shaped who you are and why you came. You'll discover that the pain in your past was chosen, the people in your life were called, and the mission you carry was agreed upon long before your first cry. You'll see that your existence is not accidental, but intentional, encoded with sacred design. The revelations you're about to witness will challenge everything: your beliefs, your memories, your understanding of yourself. But with each New stage, you will feel something stir within you, a recognition, a remembering, as if beneath the noise of the world, your soul had been waiting for this moment to awaken, and if you stay until the end, you'll not only see the truth, you'll feel it. Like a spark reigniting a flame that never truly died. So if you've ever felt that life is deeper than what you were told, if you've ever sensed that something ancient is trying to speak through your dreams, your wounds, your intuition, then prepare yourself, because what was once hidden in the shadows of time is about to come to light. Like, comment, and subscribe to join this journey beyond the veil, because your soul didn't stumble here by accident. Now that the veil has lifted and you've seen the path your soul took before birth, the question remains, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue living as if everything is coincidence? Or will you begin to walk your life with the awareness that you chose every moment for your growth, your healing, your evolution? Remember, the Sabiduría ancestral is not locked in ancient temples. It lives within you. The Misterios Ocultos are not reserved for mystics. They are reflected in your emotions, your dreams, your intuition. Every challenge is a door, every connection is a mirror, and the life you live now is the alchemical process your soul designed to awaken your inner flame. So I leave you with this. What stage are you truly in right now? Could it be that your soul is already whispering, and you've just begun to remember? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your story. And if this video sparked something within you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Let others remember too. Subscribe now and continue the journey.